On the air and streaming on the web since 1996, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Sound Radio. I'm Eric Woods, and I'm your host. If you're a member of our Patreon, then you're familiar with the weekly Friday playlists. And, well, you know what this is all about. However, if you aren't a contributor and only listen to the main RSS feed of this podcast, then please allow me to introduce you to this program. Back in August of 2024, as a way to quickly produce some new content while I worked on the main podcast program, I came up with a weekly segment called the Cinematic Sound Radio Friday Playlist. Basically, this was to be a revival of my old film music mix programs where I played a variety of unrelated cues with commentary. Many of the episodes featured a 7 to 10 minute opening commentary about what I was going to play, and then you could sit back and listen to an hour of uninterrupted film music curated by yours truly, as well as other members of the Patreon. There were also a few weeks where other Cinematic Sound Radio hosts would fill in for me just in case I was unable to produce a show that weekend. It became such a success that I spent a good majority of my podcasting time almost exclusively producing Friday playlist shows, but that meant I was ignoring the main RSS feed, which isn't fair to those that aren't Cinematic Sound Radio patrons. So I decided to come up with a compromise. I'll continue producing Friday playlist shows. I like doing them, as well as other programming, but I will now produce 2 Friday playlist shows a month free of charge and produce 2 playlists per month that will live behind the paywall. Those playlists will feature far more interesting cues like music from hard-to-find scores and commercially unreleased material. If you want to hear those programs, then please head over to patreon.com/Cinematic Sound Radio and sign up. It only costs a few bucks a month, and I thank you in advance for your support. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into this week's program, which is dedicated to sword and sorcery films. Now, sword and sorcery films are a subgenre of fantasy cinema characterized by sword-wielding heroes in action-packed, often violent adventures, frequently with elements of romance, magic, and the supernatural. The reason I wanted to put this show together this week is due to the fact that I was watching one of my favorite YouTube channels. It's called So Bad It's Good, and if you are familiar with Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst shows, it's basically the same thing. They watch a movie that is really, really bad, but still fun to watch, but this channel really does make it their own. Anyway, I was watching a back catalog episode where they binged the Beastmaster trilogy, and it got me thinking about music from this subgenre. Now, the scores for the first 2 Beastmaster films are classics, scores by Lee Holdridge and Robert Folk, respectively, while the cheap, low-budget third film was scored terribly by Jan Hammer. Anyway, we're not going to play music from those films. We have in the past, but we do have some bangers on the program today that I think you'll enjoy. So let's get into it. Now, I open the show with the modern-sounding training sequence cue from the 2014 retelling of Hercules, directed by Brett Ratner, with a powerful score by the incredibly talented Fernando Velazquez. To open the show proper, though, I'm going to play music from an early 80s Ennio Morricone score called HUNDRA, which came out only 2 years before his more famous score to Red Sonja. But HUNDRA was actually the score that pretty much got him the job on Red Sonja, and some of the elements and thematic material from HUNDRA made its way into Red Sonja. The film, similar to Conan the Barbarian, tells the story of HUNDRA, who's the sole survivor when her tribe is massacred and she vows revenge. The score by Morricone is a superb, full-blown, enormous orchestral composition with hummable themes and majestic battle music. In this suite, we'll open with a jaunty piece, which gives way to a sweeping romantic love theme, and then a more militaristic war theme, and then into the monstrous Mozart-influenced battle cue with choral accompaniment. For a score that was recorded in 1983, unfortunately, the sound quality on the released score albums sounds dreadful. But if you can get around to the boxy sound, this score cooks, and it's one of my favorite Ennio Morricone scores of all time. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack to HUNDRA, with music composed by Ennio Morricone, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Prometheus Records.
This is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Up next, we'll now listen to music from Beowulf, which was produced and directed by Robert Zemeckis and is based on the Old English epic poem Beowulf, and it features the voices of Ray Winstone, Anthony Hopkins, Robin Wright, Ben Gleeson, John Malkovich, Crispin Glover, and Angelina Jolie. And yes, it's an animated movie. Now, Zemeckis produced and directed 3 motion capture films: The Polar Express, Beowulf, and then later The Christmas Carol. Now, while The Polar Express is probably the most popular of the 3, I think the medium worked the best for this film. This sort of violent, adult-oriented animated film reminds me of those 80s animated features like Heavy Metal, Fire and Ice, Rock and Rule, and Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin, with lots of extreme violence, coarse language, and nudity. What Zemeckis was able to do within the animation medium, he probably wouldn't have gotten away with in the live-action version. Zemeckis made this a hardcore film about, and I quote directly from the director's mouth, eating, drinking, killing, and fornicating. All of that is on screen, and it is a visual splendor. The score that Alan Silvestri produced is massive. Check this out. Strings, 28 violins, 12 violas, 10 cellos, and 8 double basses. There's 3 flutes, 3 oboes, 3 clarinets, 3 bassoons. There's 8 French horns, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, and 2 tubas. There's 7 percussionists with 2 harps, 2 pianos, and 38 choral singers. Oh, there's also an electric guitar, a drum kit, and a bank of electronics. While the large-scale action cues dominate the score, Silvestri provides the film with one of his all-time best cues, accompanying the demon's seduction of Beowulf, the demon stunningly animated to look exactly like Angelina Jolie. By the way, when I first heard the score back in 2007, I really disliked it, but then I revisited the film many years later and not only really enjoyed the film even more. Now, while I enjoyed the demon seduction material, for some reason, all the rest came together. It's a fantastic score. music from the original motion picture soundtrack to Beowulf, with music composed by Alan Silvestri, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Warner Brothers Music.
This is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network, and you're listening to the flagship show with Eric Woods.
That was the finale cue, called Holy Grail and Finale, from the 1953 classic Knights of the Round Table, with original score composed by the legendary Miklos Rozsa. The cue comes from Film Score Monthly's 2003 premiere release of the original soundtrack recording, coupled with Rozsa's equally impressive score to The King's Thief. Rozsa was given 6 weeks to write and record 80 minutes of music to meet the tight Christmas 1953 premiere. Interestingly enough, Rozsa initially declined the project, but was pursued to write the score after being told that the film wouldn't be the same without him. Moving on, with more music from the subgenre Sword and Sorcery, we continue within the King Arthur mythos. We're going to listen to music from the 2001 television miniseries The Mists of Avalon, which was based on the 1983 novel of the same name by Marion Zimmer Bradley. The miniseries was produced by American cable channel TNT, and the series retells the Arthurian legend from the perspective of Morgan Le Fay and other women of the tale. The first episode was the highest-rated original film on basic cable in the summer of 2001. The series starred Angelica Houston, Juliana Margulies, and Joan Allen. Lee Holdridge's score for The Mists of Avalon is a deeply emotional and thematically rich score. It was written and orchestrated in just 10 weeks. The 2.5-hour score avoids leaning too heavily on Celtic or pagan influences. Holdridge decided that those would be elements of the score but not be the be-all and end-all of the score. He wanted something more dramatic and emotional to dominate the score, so he thought he should have several themes that he could revisit from time to time to underscore the different characters and plot lines. The score reveals its melodic strength throughout, early on, and throughout the rest of the score, and everything becomes increasingly intense and rewarding during the second half of the album, offering a memorable and fully realized listening experience, especially since Holdridge consciously left a lot of the battle music off the album. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack, to The Mists of Avalon with music composed by Lee Holdridge, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Perez Saraband Records.
Bringing you the very best music for film, TV, and video games, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Up next is music from The Sword and the Sorcerer, released in 1982, with original music by David Whitaker, and this marked his final major film composition of his career. He's best known for his richly textured orchestral work and contributions to Hammer films during the 1970s. Whitaker was brought on by director Albert Pune to score his ambitious debut feature. Though the film was released just a month before Conan the Barbarian and was quickly overshadowed by the popularity of Robert E. Howard's iconic hero, The Sword and the Sorcerer has since earned a loyal cult following and is often regarded as one of Pune's finest works. Whitaker's music for the film is a sweeping, late 19th century style orchestral score built around a handful of strong primary themes and was delivered with characteristic eloquence and dynamic orchestrations. "I think all of my musical ideas could be called neo-romantic," Whitaker explained, describing his approach as rooted in the thematic development of using motifs to identify characters and situations. The result is a stirring score, filled with, and I quote the liner notes, gusto and desire, wickedness and virtue, beauty and grotesquerie, capturing the film's dark fantasy tone with grandeur and dramatic flair. That was music from the original motion picture soundtrack to The Sword and the Sorcerer, with music composed by David Whitaker and performed in Munich with the Grand Key Symphony Orchestra. And that comes off my Supertracks promo album, although it was released through either BSX Records or Dragon's Domain Records. I can't remember. They're both the same people. But anyway, the score is commercially available on CD. Well, to end off today's program, we're going to close the show with music from a character that we opened the show with, Hercules, called Hercules, the Legendary Journey, with music by Joseph LoDuca. And you're going to hear the Hercules fanfare and the end title cue from the 1995 series that lasted 6 seasons, starring Kevin Sorbo as Hercules. And the show actually had 2 spin-offs, Xena, Warrior Princess, and Young Hercules. There's actually 4 volumes of music from Joseph LoDuca's score available through Varese Saraband Records. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's Friday playlist. And next week, the Friday playlist will be heard exclusively on Patreon. Until then, please take care of yourself wherever you are in this world, and happy listening. Thank you for listening to the Cinematic Sound Radio Podcast. I want to thank Tim Burton for providing his voice for all the bumpers you hear throughout the program, and to David Coscina for providing Cinematic Sound Radio's theme music. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And wherever you're listening to us today, please take a moment right now to leave us a rating and a review of the podcast. You can get a Cinematic Sound Radio t-shirt at our TeePublic store. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/cinematicsoundradio. And don't forget to check us out on the web at cinematicsound.net.